Good evening, everyone. It is once again Ted the Speed Learner, and tonight I'm going to start a video series on the Universal Serial Bus. Okay? And before I do, I wanted to let everybody know that I have written 5 Kindle books, and if you want the links to any of those Kindle books, you can go ahead and leave me a comment down here in the comment section below, and I will send you links to those books. Okay? Furthermore, if you want to make this video very, very popular, either you can leave me a nice comment in the comment section below, or you can actually watch this video all the way through, and then after that, then the watch time will go up on the video, and bam, whammo, bammo, it'll become a lot more popular. Alright, so anyway, let's get into the video verbatim. Alright, before the existence of the Universal Serial Bus, you had a lot of ports on your computer. I illustrated this in my previous ISA, PCI, and LPC bus videos. But Intel and the computer community were not fond of having so many cables and ports on their computers and their boards and so on and so forth. They wanted a single style of connector on their computers. After all, at a certain point, we weren't dealing with desktops anymore. We were dealing with laptops. Try fitting all those ports on a laptop. That's fun. So, as laptops became more popular than desktops, and desktops had all the necessary you got to keep in mind, all these desktops, they had all those necessary connectors, but it was filling up the back of the desktop. Okay, so it made the thing very, very bulky. The Universal Serial Bus, okay, the Universal Serial Bus was created in 1996 by the Intel Corporation. One of the people who helped create the USB technology was Mr. A.J. Bratt. He and others on his team had to create all new software so the printers, keyboards, mice, and other devices that you wanted to use on this thing could utilize this new USB technology. Now, why did so many devices require so many ports and cables? That's because all these devices ran on different power inputs and power outputs. The flow of electrons that I spoke of in previous videos varied between keyboards, mice, monitors, printers, and other devices because all these devices work differently. With USB technology, power input and output could be regulated by a single port and chipset and a simple computer program. Think about that for a second. In the beginning, there were only going to be one USB standard. That didn't last long. This is reflected in the USB-A connector. And this is a connector you're very familiar with if you've ever tried to connect your camera or your smartphone or whatever into your computer. You have the USA on there. USB-A, okay? Then the USB-B connector was designed. Now, you may not be too familiar with this, but when USB came out, this B connector was used mostly for printers, okay? They were also used to connect optical devices, like external hard drives, to a computer. And they were square-shaped, and they were not very user-friendly, I can tell you that right now. The next USB connector you might see is either a USB Mini or a USB Micro. If you have older MP3 players, flip phones, you name it, you'll see these kind of connectors. Now, another USB connector you may be familiar with is the USB Lightning connector. This only works for Apple products because Apple is proprietary. Okay? The most recent USB connector to enter the marketplace is the USB-C connector. I'm sure you've heard of USB-C, and you've seen a lot of this. Okay? Your most advanced smartphones right now have this USB-C connector. Some of your laptops have it, so on and so forth. Many USB devices today use this connector. So what's the difference between these connectors? Obviously, their sizes are different. We can tell that off the bat. But there are other differences as well. Another difference between these connectors and cords is how much power flows through them. but the amount of power that flows through them is measured in a different way. The first USB standard for power consumption was the USB 1 standard. Before we discuss the power consumption of the USB 1, I need to introduce you to a few terms which I will cover in future videos. The first term is the milliamp, the second is the volt, and the third is the watt. You have to know all three. I will discuss these terms in future videos, but the USB and the USB 1 and the USB 2 standards used a maximum of 500 milliamps, 5 volts, and 2.5 watts. But what about the USB Mini and the USB Micro? Most of them were under the USB 2 standard. Okay, so if you had a USB Mini and a USB Micro, they were pretty much the same as a USB 2. But what about the USB 3? Okay, this would be used with the USB-C connector. It uses a maximum of 5,000 milliamps and 5 volts, but the maximum watts that it can transmit is 4.5 watts. Is this the end of the story? If you have heard of the computer project called Thunderbolt, then you know this isn't the end of the story. In a future video, I will tell you the story of the USB Thunderbolt, so I hope you will stay tuned.